Yes, Mr. Sibal.
If I may, let's brush the canvas, with a broad brush to tell your lordships why and how your lordships should look at this matter. Well, this is, first of all, a pre-constitutional law. The 1920 Act is a pre-constitutional law. Pre-constitutional laws have to be tested under Article 13. If they are inconsistent with any fundamental right, they can be struck down. Article 30 is a right, fundamental right given to minorities. If your lordships looks at the 1920 Act, we'll come to that later, and comes to the conclusion that the Act itself is ultra vires Article 30, the lordship can strike it.
But has there been a challenge to the validity of the Act itself?
No, it says it can be altered also under 372. The Act itself can be altered.
The proceedings before the...
No, today your lordships are testing the validity of 1920.
But no, where is is there a challenge to the validity of the Act?
When Basha is already, I'll come to that. Just let me. When Basha itself is the subject matter of reference, then you'll have to decide whether Basha is rightly decided or wrongly decided. That will, in turn, lead your lordships to testing the 1920
But if you strike down the 20 Act, then the very status of the university evaporates.
No, let's strike down the 20 Act in the context of Article 30. That it violates my right under 30. And that takes your lordships to the reference of Basha.
Sibal, what's your argument?
Well, my argument is, please look at it as a pre-Constitution Act.
Next.
And in the light of that, test that Act in the context of our constitutional right under Article 30. You may come to the conclusion that the tests laid down in terms of Article 30, because the Basha judgment came in 1968. Now, much water has flown down the Ganges after 1968.
But nobody challenged the Act, Mr. Sibal.
I'm not saying...
How can we deal with the validity of the Act?
Please, I am just, at the moment, only asking your lordships to look at it as a pre-constitutional law. We'll come to the argument as to how it can be challenged, how it can't be challenged.
All of you are appearing for Aligarh Muslim.
I am appearing, for the Old Boys Association.
Old Boys. And Mr. Dr. Dhawan was for AMU. Yes. And Chadar?
Right, Melissa.
No challenge to the Act. How can we...
No, I'm not challenging the Act at all. Please appreciate, Melissa. I'm asking your lordship to interpret the Act in terms of Article 30. That's all that I'm wanting your lordship.
No difficulty there.
Yes, that's always in violation of my right under 30. There's nothing more than that, that I'm asking your lordships to do.
Yeah.
Now, my lords, as your lordship knows, my lords, Article 30 has been interpreted over a period of time. And when Basha came into being in 1968, my lords, there are several judgments after Basha which give your lordships as to what the true meaning of Article 30 is. Right, my lords? Those judicial dicta will have to be taken into account to interpret whether Basha was rightly decided or wrongly decided. Forget, my lords, the amendments made. I'm not concerned with that.
Wait, you're putting through it.
Now, my lords, if your lordship looks at the Constitution in the broadest sense, my lords, what happens is, my lords, there are all kinds of minorities. There are Hindu minorities, there are Muslim minorities. But when it comes to Christian minorities, when it came to, my lords, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, a special, I'm talking about now education, a special provision for reservation for them was made, my lords, in the Constitution itself. Then came the amendment to Article 15, my lords, and that reservation then was extended to the backward community. So you have reservations in educational institutions for scheduled castes, for scheduled tribes, for backward communities. no reservation could have been given to the Muslim community or to the Christian community or to the Sikh community because it would be violative of 15 and 14 and 16. So, in the context of the framework of the Constitution, there was no other way to give an opportunity to those left out to allow for education.
No, Mr. Sibal, I don't think the reference is on this issue.
I'm not.
Look, Article 30 has its various connotations. There is impact of Article 30 which is entirely different from what we are deciding today. We are deciding only a limited question: what is meant by the term established and administered in Article 30. We are not dealing with what is the effect if an institution is declared to be a minority institution, because that's been a matter of a lot of debate. Probably they wanting us to do it, go into that. But
I'm giving only a background, Malaj. I'm not. This is not. Please appreciate this.
Wanting us to go into that question?
No. I'm just giving a background as to why 30 came into being, Malaj.
What you are saying is that the beneficial provisions which were carved out for, say, the SCs, STs, and the socially and educationally backward classes could not have been given to the minorities because there would have been the bar of 15(1).
That's right.
And no discrimination on grounds of religion.
There is a rationale. Yeah,
therefore, what was the special provision which was crafted by the constitution makers? Article 30.
That's right.
That's why Article 30 has been called, in a sense, an article of faith.
That's correct.
We must put ourselves back in 1949, 1950.
Exactly.
And the idea was to give a sense of confidence to the religious and linguistic minorities.
That's right.
That they would be safe within the confines.
It is in this context that Article 30 is in the Constitution. I'm just giving your lordships just the broad constitutional framework. So when this happened, Malaj, look back at the time of 1950 when we became a republic, Malaj, where were these higher educational institutions? There were none. In fact, Malaj, the only 5 or 6 higher educational institutions were University of Calcutta, University of Allahabad, University of Lahore, University of Bombay. And University of Calcutta and Madras. That's all.
In fact, Mr. Sibal, Bombay University had jurisdiction over present-day Karnataka,
yes,
Maharashtra,
yes,
Gujarat, and if I'm not mistaken, parts of Sindh as well.
Correct. But therefore, Malaj, there were hardly any institutions of higher education. And Malaj, if your lordships are aware, and I'm sure your lordships are, only 14% of India was educated. 14% of 300 million people. There were no institutions. So when these 5 institutions, Malaj, actually, they were set up after 1857. And Malaj, it was set up on the basis of the London University. Because unless you had a university, Malaj, you couldn't get a job unless you had a degree. So when these universities were set up, Malaj, then the British thought that we must regulate them also because they must have standards. This is all of the background to look at 30 later, Malaj. I'm just giving your lordship some background. Nothing more than that. So, Malaj, in 1904, a regulation was framed that all these universities must be regulated under one statute, so that standards are maintained. Right? No, it's okay. Then what happened was, Malaj, in the meantime, there was this movement by the minorities and by the Hindu community. And what about our institution for us? So the genesis of Aligarh Muslim University is based on this movement within the minority community that apart from these 5, 6 universities, we must have a university for ourselves. That's how the Aligarh Muslim University came into being. And imagine, Malaj, Sir Sayyid, and I'm talking about 1870, Malaj, the patience that that man had. That we should not be looking at Muslim education alone, we should be looking at secular scientific education. English language should be and the kind of subjects, Malaj, that were to be taught, I'll show your lordships. The same Malaj movement was in the Hindu community. So Malaj, around the same time, Malaj, the Banaras Hindu University was set up and the Aligarh Muslim University was set up. So what happened was, Mullahs, when the Republic came into being, these were the two universities, one where the minority, the other where the majority, Mullahs. They became institutions of national importance. Why? Because they were set up, Mullahs, under the Central Legislative Assembly by an act of the Assembly itself, of the central government, the British government, of the imperial government.
So what were the other universities which were
By acts, Mullahs, by
all of
separate
them were by act?
Yes. And then they're regulated in 1904 together.
They were
It
regulated.
will have an impact on the meaning of, why am I saying this? It will tell you the meaning of established, it will give you a meaning of administration. Give you some indication as to what it means. Then, Mullahs, what happened was, then these were the only two universities, Mullahs, which were set up by the Central Legislative Assembly, and your Lordship knows, Mullahs, the time when the Constitution was framed, education was a state subject. So they could not be administered by the state in which they were located. Both were in UP.
In fact, apropos what your submissions, sorry for the digression, if you look at entry 63
I
of
was
this
coming
one,
precisely to that.
union list, it
Yes.
says the institutions known
National importance.
of the commencement of this constitution as the Banaras Hindu University,
Yes.
the Aligarh Muslim University,
Delhi University.
and Delhi University, the university, and then it came later, the university establishment pursuant of Article 371E. Any other institution declared by Parliament
Yes.
by law to be an institution of national importance.
Yes. And Mullahs, Ambedkar says this is because we must protect the cultural ethos of India. The genesis is a movement, Mullahs, within the Muslim community that we must have an institution for ourselves. Now,
University.
so you can recognize
But
the degree.
they constituted a university
Yes.
so that they could themselves grant degrees.
That's correct. And that's for what? Recognition of their course of studies consistent with the standards set up by the government. That's the heart.
What is the year of the setting up of Banaras Hindu University? Because
Same year, but
it's also
16.
celebrated its 100 years.
1915.
1915.
15.
1915. So
Yeah.
2015
And
decade.
this college was affiliated with Allahabad University.
That's correct.
And Allahabad University used to confer degrees.
That's correct.
This MAO.
Oh, I see.
So there's
First Calcutta University.
Calcutta and then Allahabad.
Then Allahabad University.
Yes. Therefore, there's a basic, according to me, quote unquote, confusion that the grant of the status.
Actually, even after Basha, degrees are given and can be given.
I am on, sir.
Yes.
I request by learned friend.
No, therefore.
Like it doesn't matter. Every incorrect statement I make need not be corrected by you. Because every incorrect statement you make, I
Some
never correct.
incorrect statements are very potent.
Incorrect statement you make, I never correct. Because I believe you will always make correct statements. So, Mullahs, what is the point that I am making? That you can't lose your status as a minority institution the moment the UGC grants you the status of a university. These communities were still poor. They had no access. And therefore, Mullahs, a special reservation was given. I'm against it, but that's another matter. Special reservation, because the Constitution only talks about classes of people. But we are not concerned with that. So this is then what happened, Mullahs. So if you do not interpret 30 in this fashion and say that, look, you have lost your right to establish, what you're doing is you are in fact violating the right to equality, which is a violation of 14 in fact. Some other parts of education, at 19, huh? Para 18, yes, that's very important. Para 18. Para 20, actually. It starts at 18. This is the submission that was made. At page 604.
In a page?
Page number 604. I'm sorry, my lords have that?
Yes.
With regard to the establishment of educational institutions, 3 articles of the Constitution came into play. Article 19(1)(g) gives the right to all citizens to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. This right is subject to restrictions that may be placed under 19(6). Then 26 gives the right to every religious, we are not concerned with religious denomination for religious purposes. Then Article 19(1)(g) and 26 therefore confer rights on all citizens of religious denominations to establish and maintain educational institutions. There was no serious dispute that the majority community, as well as the linguist and religious minorities, would have a right under 19(1)(g). This is the point I was trying to make, which is what I argued mullahs in TMFI. I said they have equal rights. And 26 to establish education. In addition, 31, in no uncertain terms, gives the right to the religious and linguist minority to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. So it is a right under 19(1)(g). There is an additional right under 31, which protects the minority community to seek to empower them. Why? Because otherwise, if we don't give them that right, it will result in article violation of 14. Because I've basically done almost everything. Not going to waste your lordship's time.
After that, Mr. Pallav, half an hour, and then we'll follow up on who will commence from the very short. Mr. Sibal, then Mr. Salman Khurshid, and then Mr. Parasad. Give us a one-page set of submissions.
I think,
So that we'll upload it.
well, there's another item that I want uploaded, only giving the sections of the act and all that. We've already given it, all that to be done.
So a little before lunch, I think by about 12:15 or 12:30, we'll be calling upon the other side.
That should be a problem. Please, deeply obliged. Deeply obliged.